of those folks who have been victimized. And we wanted that to be really our focus for today. So it was 4 years ago today that Isaiah Hammett was murdered by St. Louis Metropolitan Police Department SWAT team. They came bursting. He was living in a house over on Kings Highway with his grandfather, who's a Vietnam vet. And his grandfather was disabled from the war and needed care. So Isaiah had moved in to live with him and support him. SWAT came bursting in that morning. Isaiah had no idea who was coming into the house. There was no warning that he was aware of to let him know why some people were breaking into the house. His bedroom was just directly across from the front door. And so he was in that bedroom. His grandfather's bedroom was behind his in the back of the house. When they came in, he had no idea what was happening. But you can see the bullets that riddle the door, the walls inside the bedroom, the walls surrounding that door into his room, riddled with bullets. We were able to get a forensics expert to come in and look at the house shortly after. And what he saw was over 100 bullets going in the direction of Isaiah. He couldn't find evidence of a single bullet coming out the other direction towards the police officers. Of course, that's not their story. Their story was he had an AK-47, which would have put holes through the brick walls if he had been firing it. But it wasn't functional that day, and there's no evidence that any shots were fired from Isaiah. Well, again, he didn't know what was happening. The bullets were coming into his bedroom, and he had a back door to that room. He retreated out that back door and went into his grandfather's room. His grandfather was in bed and uses a wheelchair, but Isaiah was able to pull him down on the floor for protection. They had a brief conversation. Who's breaking into the house? I don't know who this is. They had no idea who's breaking into the house. But Isaiah went out into the little middle hallway between the bedrooms and into the dining room. And that's where he was gunned down by St. Louis police. There are bullet holes that appeared to be at an angle about like this, pointing down, which showed that Isaiah was on the ground already when the final shots were fired. And so, Gina has tried, her family has tried, her father has tried for 4 long years to get justice. We'll be updating you a little bit later on some of the legal situation, but I wanted folks who hadn't heard that story before to understand why we're here today and to understand the pain that this family and other families feel.
New messages received from Juanita Bishop.
So I'm going to turn it over to Gina Torres, Isaiah Hammett's mom, and she's going to share a few words with you.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Gina Torres, Isaiah Hammett's mother, and I just want to thank you everyone for coming out. I appreciate it, for showing my family love. It means a lot because it's always hard on days like this, birthdays, holidays. So it's really hard, and it means a lot to me that you guys all came out. Today I want to do something different. When I'm lost, my heart's gone. They left his brothers and sisters without a brother. There ain't nothing I can do, and it hurts me, but I can't take my children's pain. And I'm their mother, and I should be able to do that. But they took my son Isaiah from them. It's really hard. I just had to go to Bush Stadium. My daughter Karina Hammett graduated from high school. That really hurt it. And I know it hurt my daughter that her brother can see her. The very last time that she got to see her brother was her 8th grade graduation, 2 weeks before the cops and S.W.A.T came and killed my son. I wouldn't say killed, they assassinated my son and into the ground. Nobody knows our pain. You can lose loved ones, but some people fall asleep and they don't wake up at peace. But to go out like my son, I couldn't even have a funeral for my son. I had to cremate him. That's how bad they shot him up. I couldn't touch my son. I give him a kiss and tell him I'm sorry I wasn't there and goodbye. I didn't have the chance for none of that. His brothers and sisters didn't have a chance. My father didn't have a chance. I see my father's pain every day. That wasn't just his grandson, that was his son. He helped me raise Isaiah. He went home with Isaiah. He did all kinds of stuff for my son to teach him to be a man. I would love for my father to be here, but he's too sick. He can't even go to his funeral because he can't say goodbye. It's just really hard, and it's really hard to speak on my son because anytime I speak on him, I'm going to cry because my heart is just broken. And what hurts the most is I always tell my son I protect him. And if he didn't have a chance to kill me for me to protect him, and that's what kills me the most. I'm just going to leave it all for my daughter. I just wanted to thank you guys. My life will never be the same. There's nothing that can bring my son back. I want him back. But I know my son would want to save somebody else's life. So that's what I'm out here doing. I'm trying to stop him from killing another loved one and making another family bear the pain that me and my family bear every day. His friends that he grew up with that looked up to my son. There's a lot of people that looked up my son and loved my son. My son is not just a nobody, he was a somebody. And they took him from us. Thank you.
Hammett. I am usually shy and don't do these kind of things and speak in front of people because this is not my thing. But for Isaiah, it is. Every day I miss him dearly. That is the closest person to me. He did watch me grow up. He basically raised me, honestly. And I don't know, the last time I had seen him, like my mom was saying, was my 8th grade graduation. So that's what hurt me the most, is because I was supposed to come spend the night with him the night before. I had told him no because I had a friend with me, so I didn't really come with him. I do and don't regret it because if I was there, it would have happened to me too. But I do regret it because I didn't see him one last time. Isaiah was very caring and genuine. He was very smart. He really, helped me with school. He left school to help me, for real. Help all of his siblings. You know, his family, his cousins, everybody. All I have to say was all that he was a thug. He was a murderer. He was a killer. That was lies. That was cap. That was all. No. He really was a caring, genuine person. Everybody had made mistakes. Everybody makes mistakes, but at the end of the day, we live and we learn. And at the end of the day, we know who we are and we know who he was. Thank you.
So Isaiah's brothers are here as well. I just wanted to give them the opportunity, if they want to say anything. Not at all necessary, but if you all feel moved to speak.
I miss my brother and I want justice, and I really miss my wife. I wish he was still here to see us grow up. I know he can still see us, but I can't give him no more hugs or nothing. Love you, Isaiah.
So, as you all know, it's an oft-quoted statistic that St. Louis has the most police shootings per capita of any city in the United States. And so, Isaiah was not the first person to be gunned down by St. Louis police. He hasn't been the last. But there is a woman here today who had her own family tragedy. And then has stood by Gina's side through these long 4 years. Tony Taylor's son was Kerry Ball Jr. He was killed by St. Louis police. After all the witnesses there said he had already thrown down his gun, killed by St. Louis police in 2012. So Tony has been, again, seeking justice for years and years, and would like to say a few words today.
Hello everyone. My name is Tony Taylor, like John stated. Speaking at things like this be so hard. Out of my whole 8 years of my fight, I never been to this building. I didn't even know this building was right here. Every time Gina was talking to me about this building, I kept on saying, but Gina, I didn't have to fight them. That wasn't a part of my fight. But yes, it was. And even when Gina asked me to speak at this event today, at first I declined because I didn't even know what to talk about. Because I'm tired of telling my child's story. I don't want to keep telling that tragedy. So what I thought about to talk about was my fight is here. It's Jeff Ruder. Jeff Ruder has been the evil in every police brutality shooting in the city of St. Louis. In the county too. And when Bruce Springs got in trouble for holding down 3 jobs, we should have been looking at Jeff Ruder too because he was holding down 3 jobs. He was the president of the city of St. Louis Police Association. He was also the county executive up under, what's his name, Bob McCullough. And at the time, he was also Jefferson County executive director. How can he have 3 positions? Did nobody bring that up on the news? But they want to talk about Bruce Springs. Did nobody bring up on the news when he called Chief Dustin on the news because Chief Dustin called in the FBI on my son's case. But he got on the news and he told the news reporter and Chief Dustin in his face What you gonna do when the next mother asks you for a police investigation by the FBI? You know what Rudy told Dawson? You know what? He told that to Dawson. But what he should have been saying to Chief Dawson at the time was, how you gonna prevent this from happening to the next mother? Because now I'm standing next to Gina Torres. Isaiah Hammett is gone. So Jeff Buddha is the problem. Until we get him out of office, we're not going to get no police accountability. That's what we need to understand. And until we come together and work as a community to change the police laws, we're not going to get nothing done. One person can't do it. It's not about the shine, the glory, the hoorah, all that, no. I didn't wash these streets. I was out there. I didn't got here with a rubber bullet. That's not fascinating. I'm too little for that. I done been dragged in the street. I was on water and got tear gas with 2 different tear gases. One of them gagged us and the other one burnt us. What? Come on, people. This is not glory. Nothing about what's happening to our loved ones make any sense. Start understanding that. It don't matter if you've been affected or not. If we crying out, we've been affected. So stand with us. That's all we saying. Stand with us. When we go to Jefferson City, come with us. It's a big march. It's 2 major things gonna go on for police brutality around the country. First of all, let me say this too. Last year, Gina helped me organize a mother's march to Minnesota when George Floyd called out. We had a press conference. I can count on one hand how many people we had a press conference in front of the city hall. Yeah, sprinkled a little bit that day. It even drizzled or something. Had a nice little pour down, but that shouldn't have stopped nobody. If you was available, you should have came out. Now, it's 2 major events coming up for families. The first one going to be in Washington, D.C., August 28th. Me and Gina going. We need some support from St. Louis. Come watch with us. We're going to be speaking at the Lincoln Capitol on August 28th, and then we're marching on the Department of Justice and demanding that they prosecute the police and reopen up all of these cases. Stand with us. If you don't want to stand with us, find us to get there. Help us, because don't nobody give us no money. This is not fame to us. Gina her crying, her family crying. Look at her baby. This is her baby boy. All of this is nerve-wracking. Gina had to stay in that house for all that time. Now that's August 28th. The other one is September the 30th. Families United for Justice. We're going to that. That moves around the country every year. Gina, this is going to be Gina's first year going. She couldn't go last year because her dad got ill. But she's going this year. Help us. Stand with us. Come together with us. Back us. If you free, come out. What have we done to y'all? Y'all should not feel ashamed to stand with us. We the mothers. If the pain can't get no roar, you're looking at it right now. My name is Tony Taylor. My son was Kerry Ball Jr. He was my firstborn. I love him, I miss him, and I want Jeff Buddha out. Power to the people. I love you, Gina.
Love you, Gina.
The next person to speak was a friend of Isaiah's. Grew up with him, you and young boys together. He's got his own story of police brutality, but because that one's still trying to get justice in that case. He can't talk about the companies of his own story, but he would like to say a few words about Isaiah. Sean Emmanuel.
Hello, everyone. My name is Sean Emmanuel, and like John just stated, I was shot 6 times by the police department. I was 14. By 4 off-duty police officers. I can't really say much about it because I'm still in the middle of the case. But Isaiah was a really good friend of mine since we were really good, since we were really young. He's always been a smart kid. He's always been a reader. He loved to play games. He always called me when we go to the mall and go to stores. He wasn't a bad kid. He always liked to fun active things. He wasn't really out in the streets and doing stupid stuff like they try to make it out like he was. I just love him and I miss him a lot. We all miss him and we want everyone to be here for us and help us all out and be here to support us. It's really hard on days like this for everyone, and I'm just glad that we got as many people here as that are here. My thing was last minute, so there wasn't really no one there, so I'm just glad that everyone's here for us today. And they're showing the manual of not justice for everyone, not justice for all.
Isaiah's grandmother has decided to say a few words as well, so I'm going to bring her up next.
My name's Dawn Atwell. I'm Isaiah's grandmother. I wasn't prepared to speak today, but I feel like I need to. He was my first grandchild, and as this child grown, if anyone was at the funeral, they seen the pictures, they seen how this kid lived. He had an old soul. He was good and kind and generous and helpful to everybody. But what the people out there on Channel 5 News, if you're watching and we're taping this, people got to understand that this no-knock raid can happen to their family, can kill their children or their grandmother or grandfather laying in his bed. Things have got to change. The police, for the last 20 years, at least 20 years, there's been a communication problem with the people and the police. People have to worry about getting beat instead of stopped, killed sitting in their house. Something's got to change. There's good police and there's bad police, but I'll tell you what, the bad police are really changing the people here, and they don't feel safe. And I don't feel safe, and this family doesn't feel safe. When we were stolen, our child was stolen, and I don't mean to be rude to anybody, but they got to understand, it's not what that chief of police said at the press conference. He demoralized and destroyed Isaiah's character. What he described was not what happened. I won't go into details because of the court issues, but people need to open their eyes and check what is going on, what really happened. Do research. Just don't believe what you hear, because it isn't always true. I don't know. All I know is that I love this kid. He was a young man with a heart of gold. You didn't deserve this. Nobody deserves this. The SWAT is meant to kill. That's it. It isn't meant to help people. That's all I got to say. But please remember, Isaiah, please stand with this family, because it could be your family next. But I know this isn't going to be shown. But the people out on the streets need to know this. We know it. They don't know it. They think because somebody says on the news, oh, he did this, it's the truth. But when it happens to their family, they'll understand. It does happen to white people. And it's a shame, because the white people don't stand up as much. And I'm not trying to demoralize you. You know exactly what I'm saying. You guys have been under suppression for so long. But it's happening to the whites. And nobody sees it. Nobody cares. Oh, he must have deserved it. He didn't deserve it. You didn't deserve it. And if people knew Isaiah, they would know that. And although I sounded angry, and I am angry, but I just wish that there was a way that the people could understand what's going on. And I know I'm not really talking about Isaiah, I'm talking about now. People open their eyes. It could happen to them. The people riding down the street, they don't know what could happen to them. I'm rambling, so I'm going to go, but I want you to know, the ones that don't know Isaiah, everything you heard from all these people are true. He was a good soul. He was an old soul. He was a kind soul. He didn't hesitate to come over and help me when I needed help. All I had to do was ask. And he did the same for his grandfather. He loved him dearly, as he loved the rest of his family.
we're going to have just two more speakers. I wanted to just fill in a little bit from what Isaiah's grandma just said about, Isaiah deserving this. Well, of course, nobody deserves this kind of treatment. And again, no shots were fired towards the police that there's any evidence of. But on top of that, a couple more facts. The warrant for this no-knock raid didn't show up until 6 hours after the raid was over. But that warrant said that they were looking for illegal guns and drugs. They didn't find a single illegal gun, not one. And what they found in terms of drugs is what they were embarrassed to describe as a quantity of marijuana, such a small amount. This was not a drug dealer. This was not an arms dealer, an arms stockpiler. This was a kid taking care of his grandpa. I wanted to introduce the next speaker. Emmanuel Powell is a Skadden Fellow at Art City Defenders. He's going to speak about some of the policy ramifications of all this. But Emmanuel is also a survivor who lost his family member to a police shooting just a few years ago. And so Emmanuel is speaking both as a survivor, a family member, and as a policymaker here in St. Louis. Emmanuel Powell.
I want to echo what folks have said, thanking you for being here. What Isaiah's grandmother just said is really important. Back in 2017, I was a law student at Harvard Law School. I thought, all right, I'm going to be part of this movement that's pushing against police brutality. It was something I had read about, stories I had heard, and then January 21st, 2017, my mom called me that my cousin Ronnie Lee Shorter had been slaughtered in our home state in Greenville, Mississippi. Greenville's a little bitty town. It's like 20,000 people. The 5 officers lured him outside of his house, shot him dead in the middle of the night. He died alone, and his family, not dissimilar to some other stories, were kept back as we were trying to see his body. That same year, I was here at Art City Defenders, and that's when I met the Hammett family. That's when I met Gina, and it was one of the worst days. It was about a day or so after Isaiah had been killed, and I saw the horror that I had seen in my own eyes, that I had seen in my loved one's eyes, that horror of knowing that you're never getting your loved one back. That horror of knowing that the people who are supposed to protect and serve are not going to protect and serve you. And I saw immediately after what that continued disdain for human life. How Gina spoke about not being able to see her loved one. How she spoke about not being able to get information about how it happened. How records just showed up. That is not an uncommon story. Unfortunately, as John mentioned, St. Louis has the highest per capita killings by police of any major city. This is a common story, and my family did not expect we would be part of this growing community, this growing family of people bound by the blood spilled by the state. That's who we are, and it's true. It could be you tomorrow, today. You don't know. And as I think about who I am, it comes from this family. Because that day when I was sitting there, talking with them, learning from them, I realized that was something I wanted to do what Tony said. I wanted to stand with these families. I wanted to be someone who told their stories. I wanted to be someone who litigated cases on their behalf. And that's what I do today at Arch City because of what they went through, what Tony went through, what we found over 130 names of people who've been killed by police. And to talk quickly about S.W.A.T, S.W.A.T is a major killer. In 2017, our research, also research from the Coalition Against Police Crimes and Repression, John Chasnoff, we identified at least 3 people who were killed by S.W.A.T members. That, when we look at the Hammett case, At least 3 of those officers that are named were involved in other killings. Joshua Berscherer had killed Gregory Mays, or been involved in killing Gregory Mays. Timothy Boyce, Harry T. Ball Jr., Nicholas Manasco had actually taken a picture of Carlos Bowles' body, shared it with his friends. It leaked, and that just happened to get out. He had a lawsuit trying to keep the city from being able to get his phone so that they could look at the picture that he sent. They're hunting people. That's what's happening. There's a campaign today to defund the police, and I know that that language can be challenging, but one of the things we call out is that over $1 million that the city is asking for SWAT, that we take that money, re-envision a public safety that doesn't have SWAT showing up to your house and slaughtering your loved ones. That's what we mean when we say defund, re-envision, and transform, because no family, my family, your family, the families behind us, none of us should ever have to be here trying to get you to hear us, to care about us, to love us. So I just want to thank y'all. I want to thank Regina. Thank you for allowing me to be here. It is a blessing. As much as it is a horror, Isaiah's spirit lives in us. It is moving us. We are here today. We're going to change it so that there are no more of these, okay? I believe that, and I just want to thank you for allowing me to be here.
One thing I forgot to say, another reason I picked right here is because this is where they sit down and have their meeting to sit there and kill our loved ones and our children. They sat down weeks before to plan what they did to my son. And like I said, the reason I'm out here is because who my son is a caring, gold heart. He'd do anything for anybody. If he's seen an old lady walking up the street with groceries, he'd take her bags from her. He had respect for the police. Even no matter if they bothered him or whatever, he respected the police. He'd say, yes, sir. He had respect. No matter if anybody hurt him, did him wrong, he was a forgiver. And it's hard for me to forgive. I try my best because that's who my son is. No matter who did him wrong and what they did to him, he would forgive you. That's all I have to say.
Okay, I'm going to finish up this part of the event today, bringing folks up to date a little bit on where this fight for justice for Isaiah stands and what some of the obstacles have been. First of all, after Michael Brown was shot and killed in Ferguson, the chief of police at that time was Chief Dotson. And one of his responses was to create what he called a professional unit that would investigate police shootings. It was supposed to hold police accountable. It's called the Force Investigative Unit, and it was created in the fall of 2014, just shortly after Michael Brown's murder. So the Force Investigative Unit has been one of the main obstacles in getting justice for Isaiah. Their reports have been characterized by the folks who have seen them as inadequate and incomplete. A lot of those reports never even get turned over to the Circuit Attorney's Office until months and months and years later. And then when they come, a lot of the information's missing. The Circuit Attorney herself has said that those investigations are so incomplete she can't act on them. And she doesn't have the capacity to do her own investigations. And so those incomplete FIU reports just sit on the shelf. I think it was more than a year later, in late 2018, in late 2018, when the FIU report went to Circuit Attorney Gardner's office, she said it was too inadequate to act on. And so how are these families supposed to get justice when the quote-unquote professional unit that's supposed to bring police accountability can't seem to do their own jobs? When Chief Hayden came in 2018, he fired everybody in the Force Investigative Unit and transferred them to other units. Completely restaffed the Force Investigative Unit because they were doing such a poor job under Chief Johnson and then under Chief O'Toole, who was chief when Isaiah was born. So Gina has taken the recourse of filing a civil lawsuit. Because of COVID, that's been slowed down, but her attorney is busy taking depositions. For those of you who want to look up the case, you can do so. But it will be coming to trial, hopefully in the not too distant future. And Gina can at least get some civil justice, if not criminal justice, for what happened to Isaiah. But as a result of everything you've heard today, we have a few demands, just 4. But I wanted to share those with you. First of all, you heard from the family members how hard it is to get information. When a loved one's killed, they don't know if that person's been taken to the hospital, if the body's been taken to the morgue, what's happened, and what is their right to access. And so we want to see systems created that get in touch immediately with the families and let them know where their loved ones are and what their access is. And then we want that same system to follow up as information becomes available to make sure that that information is getting to the families. Secondly, that Force Investigative Unit, which has been so ineffective, it's another example of the police policing themselves. When we were fighting for civilian oversight, we always said, well, the police can't police themselves. No organization, can come to a situation like that without bias for the people they already know and work with. And so we want to see that Force Investigative Unit taken out of the police department, or the functions of that unit taken out of the police department and given to a civil authority, so that we can have real civilian investigations of these police shootings when they happen. Finally, we want to defund S.W.A.T. S.W.A.T. gets sold to us as being there and being necessary because of active shooter situations and hostage situations. We did a sunshine report in between 2012 and 2018, a 6-year period. Only 3% of SWAT deployments were for those particular functions. Everything else was other activities that SWAT performs. And SWAT is not just called SWAT inside the police department, it's SWAT/Mobile Reserve. That Mobile Reserve unit is commonly known on the streets as the jump out squad, because they'll jump out, beat people up, intimidate people, and jump back into their cars. So we'd like to see defunding, we demand to see defunding of SWAT. And finally, we need the new administration to break this logjam of reports that are not getting prosecuted because they're incomplete. We have a new administration, a new mayor who has control of the police department. And we want to see the mayor sit down with the circuit attorney and figure out how this system can work in a rational and functional manner so that we don't have a backlog of dozens and dozens of cases that are not seeing justice. So those are our demands for today. Those are the families, just a little sliver of the families in St. Louis, but the families who turned out today. Thank you all for coming. Thank the media for coming. We're going to move away from talking and towards taking some more direct action. So I'm going to ask everyone if we can march up the street to that next stoplight.
Hold on, the media's been patiently waiting. Channel 5 and I would like to interview Gina, please, Tony, and you.
That's fair.
Right.
That's fair.
Right.
You're happy. We're happy for that to happen.
No lies. Tell the truth. Keep me in the middle of all the marching and stuff, because I'm not working anymore. I got 4 or 5.
Okay, Camera Wax, if you'd like to ask, I'll bring Gene up to me.
No, I got my own mic. What are we doing over here? He wants to, everybody can listen there, but I want to, that's terrible audio. It just sounds like
Okay,
radio.
Gina, if you want to. The rest of you, we're going to move up. We're going to move up to the stoplight up at the corner.
What's that, Sergey?
We can Folks, let me just make this announcement. So that, let me make this announcement. So if we can move up to that stoplight, we have a bunch of these flowers.
What's up, Mike Avery? I'm Shawnee. I know you on Facebook only.
We'll meet up there in just a minute or two up at the stoplight that sits about half a block away. Thank you.
Right there.
The reason I'm out here is because every day I gotta bear the pain of not being able to call my son. To hear the voice of his saying, "Mama, I love you." I can't take my children's pain from them crying for their brothers. I can't take the pain away from my father of all the nightmares and me hearing him talk in his sleep, crying for my son Isaiah.
Go ahead, get in.
I am angry. I am very angry. I am hurt. I got a lot of rage. But one thing I will not do, I will not stop fighting for my son Isaiah Hammett. I will not stop fighting for these other families who lost loved ones. I do not want another parent, cousin, aunt, uncle, or anybody that loved the person that they killed bear the pain that me and my children bear every day. Every one of his friends who cry, who go to counseling, who has to be on medicated because they didn't just take a nobody. My son was a somebody. My son was smart. Since he was a little baby, he was my firstborn. I carried my son 9 months. I went through 23 hours of labor, not knowing if my son's gonna make it because he wasn't breathing when he came out. Me almost dying when they hit my son. Not being able to hold my baby for 3 weeks because he was in an incubator next to these little 3-pound babies. My baby was 9 pounds, 10 ounces, 23 inches, 2 weeks early. I was 17 years old, but that was my heart. That was my world. He is who made me. Him and my children is what makes me. My children are what keep me here. That's the only reason I'm here is because my children and my father.
And Jason Chambers was promoted to SWAT, and they were present at Master Ball Bay shooting, as well as at Isaiah Hammett shooting. Timothy Boyce is even mentioned in Isaiah Hammett lost with Regina Torres. So I feel like SWAT taught them how to be even more trained killers. T-O-N-I, Tony, T-A-Y-L-O-R, Taylor. Terry Ball Jr., C-A-R-Y-B-A-L-L-J-R.
I have not heard that.
I'm not right at you. You too.
Okay.